Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Friday, May 14th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. It's a busy soccer week in Kansas City, and we start with Thursday's announcement that Children's Mercy Park is getting an entire pool of Gold Cup games involving the U.S. men's national team this summer. Big news for Kansas City. Also, on Sunday, Sporting KC will play its third game in 8 days, and they try to win the week. KC NWSL plays its first regular season game on Saturday at Louisville. WOSO is looking for its first victory this season after a winless Challenge Cup. Also, the team signed an international player this week, and we'll tell you about that. Aly Trost of SportsRadio 810 and Shaun Goodwin, who covers soccer for the Star, are here to tell you all about it. We even touch on a somewhat controversial name change happening in the MLS at Columbus. So let's get started with Aly and Shaun. Talking soccer again with Aly Trost of SportsRadio 810 and Shaun Goodwin, who covers the sport for the Kansas City Star. And up front, I got to let you know that we are recording this on Thursday afternoon. And the reason I emphasize that this week is because we're not far removed from some news dropping from the U.S. men's national team having to do with the Gold Cup. Looks like Children's Mercy Park is going to get an abundance of games in July, which is a pretty cool thing. Shaun, why don't you take us through quickly what's coming to Kansas City in July?
Yeah, let me find the exact schedule while I am talking.
While you look at that schedule,
well, yeah.
I will...
I've got it now.
Okay, go ahead.
Nice and quick, I'm ready. We knew that the Gold Cup was coming to Children's Mercy Park in some capacity. About 3 weeks ago, we found out. And then we found out today that because of COVID and the Gold Cup and CONCACAF is doing like a hub city kind of deal, the US is going to be based in Kansas City, which means all three of their group stage games are going to be at Children's Mercy Park, which is super cool. Firstly, just a little tidbit if it's the first time since 2003 that the US has played in a single stadium 3 times in a single week. And then secondly, just, we talked about this last time as we head into the Gold Cup or the World Cup bid for 2026. Not only is Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City in the spotlight of, hey, we're hosting international games, they're hosting US games. Like, this is where all of the eyes of soccer fans in this country will be, on Kansas City. That's a super cool thing for Kansas City to get, and I assume it's partly because of the National Training Center here. And then just the show and what Kansas City and Children's Mercy Park is capable of pulling on. So, yeah, super cool.
So games are July 11. July 11, USA against an opponent that is to be determined. And July 15th, Martinique is the opponent from the Caribbean. And on July 18th, USA versus Canada. So it's a Sporting KC schedule, 3 games in 8 days for Team USA. Aly, pretty cool deal, isn't it?
Oh, it's so awesome. And Shaun, really hit on, I think, what's really important for Kansas City as a city in all of this is the World Cup bid. So it's going to be really exciting to see how it all plays out. I did not know that fun fact from the last time 3 games have been played in a single stadium was 2003. That's pretty cool. So yeah, huge for Kansas City. The national, the training center is just world class. So it's just huge. And I'm happy for Sporting and for the city of Kansas City, because it's going to be really awesome. And, it's such a great, the Midwest in general, but Kansas City is such a great soccer town. And this will be a really cool experience for the fans too.
It'll be useful if we showed up. Right, if the stadium was filled and would make a pretty good impression, and that always seems to happen when international events come to Kansas City.
Yeah, and I guess just on that note, May 29th, first sporting game, full capacity versus Houston. So the last time Children's Mercy Park has a full capacity, also against Houston, March 2020. So we've really come full circle. So that's super cool. And then just on the topic of full capacity, of course, KC NWSL They'll be going back to full capacity on the 26th of May against Ali. Help me. Who's got home game?
On the 26th, Chicago.
Boom. Look at that. So, yeah, we're getting back to 100% soon. So that means, for the Gold Cup, should expect 100% capacity. And, with the US in town, people will show up.
Yeah, I would recommend going to the websites of both teams to find out about ticket sales and any kind of restrictions on moving around or masks or that sort of thing. Also, let's keep it in the realm of the recent Sporting Kansas City played last night, and I should say Wednesday night. 1-0 loss at Houston. I don't like shutouts. I just don't. Give us something to talk about, right? What happened? Shaun, you covered that game for the Star. What happened in that game? Yeah,
I think you mentioned a shutout, Blair. I think the most disappointing part of all of this is I was full of fun facts today. Since 2018, in the 95 games that Houston's played, they've only kept 11 shutouts. Well, that's now 12 and 96 because they shut out Sporting last night. So right off the bat, that's massively disappointing. First half was pretty boring. No shots on target. And it did pick up in the second half. Houston I think Houston did play pretty good. What they were doing, it's not fun to watch, especially if you're playing at home. They essentially sat back, waited for Sporting to make a sloppy pass or a sloppy touch, jumped on the midfield and then hit on counter-attack, and especially around having two slow centre-backs with Fontas and Ilie. It worked. They won 1-0. It was what it wasn't fun to watch. And just Sporting has a slew of chances to equalise, didn't take them. Kind of a theme I feel like we've had early on in the season. So not the most exciting game. I know there's a lot of discourse after the game on who was at fault for what for Houston's goal. I know Peter Peter didn't agree with me. I know Ali has her opinion. Do you want to take your opinion, Ali, and then I'll have my rebuttal?
Yeah, well, so until I listened to Peter Vermees's press conference where he, was talking about poor passing and then Shaun, it was you who were like, not taking good care of the ball. And you specifically mentioned Gadi Kinda, and he goes, no, not him. So that prompted me and Chad Reynolds to pull up the play and go further back. So oftentimes, and this is a good thing to know, I guess, for fans, if you're looking at a clip on Twitter, sometimes it's hard to see the build-up play because it'll get cut out in just time restrictions or whatever leads to that. But we went up and pulled up, the build-up that led to the turnover, which then led to the Houston goal. And Jalen Lindsey received a pass, and instead of continuing forward, either taking the space up the wing or connecting, I believe it was Kyrie Shelton there who was open for the pass and kind of trying to build up, up on the wing, doing a give and go, or he cut back and played the ball into traffic to Gadi Kinda, who then of course turned over the ball. And that just led to a, Houston counter. They had numbers. Sporting couldn't recover. They got pulled out of position. Boom, goal. And you always want to, like Huw says this all the time, Shaun, make the other players on your team look good. Jalen Lindsey did not necessarily make Gadi Kinda look good with that pass. But all things considered, I would agree with you that, Gadi Kinda's got to be a little bit better on the ball, but it was a physical mismatch. I mean, it was just not it was not something that I think Sporting deserved to concede a goal off of. But it is frustrating when, the last two games, when you look at the expected goals, which is a really fun stat to follow if you're following soccer and are trying to understand, how teams are performing specifically in the attack and defensively as well. But Sporting had a 1.7 expected goal average versus Houston that was just 0.8. So, Houston hardly had any chances, but the one that they did have, they put it away.
Here's my thing. So I agree with what you're saying with Jalen. Obviously, you've got your wing back going down the wing. You should be looking to advance the passing. Like I said, you do want to make your teammates look good, but, Gadi receives that ball. It is a mismatch. I looked up numbers last night. You've got 5'8", 146-pound Gadi Kinda. And then for Houston, 6'4", 176-pound Derek Jones. Like you said, it is a mismatch.
Not to mention the field position. They're at half field. Like that's not the best place to be playing a pass like that.
It's not, but at the same time, if I'm a midfielder, it's not like these players don't receive the ball not under pressure dozens of times through the game. It's not like they don't receive the ball facing the wrong way, facing their own goal. And at the end of the day, yes, it's a mismatch, but he's still 5'8". I get Derek Jones is a big fella, but it doesn't stop Lionel Messi. I get Gazzy King doesn't have Messi. It didn't stop Bugsy Malone back in the day being small. It didn't stop me when I was 4'5", facing like 6 foot players when I was like 11 years old. I get it's tough, but these are professional players. And Peter can say it's not Gazzy's fault all he wants. Yes, it was partly Jalen, but at the end of the day, you can't have your midfielder with no protection behind him losing a ball in that situation as easily as he did. And ultimately, that's what led to the goal. So,
and the last thing I want to add is, who did Gadi Kinda have to pass to? The pressure was on him the second he received the ball. There wasn't a passing outlet that was clearly open, at least from what I'm looking back and as we're recording this. So I think there's blame to go around in this case. It's just, we wouldn't be talking about it in depth and dissecting it if a goal didn't happen as a result of that breakdown.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, you're right. But again, if he takes a good touch and can hold off Jones for a second or two, heck, either someone helps them, or it's not like, I think Maxi Rudy was the only player ahead of the play at that point. So, it's not like he had a lack of option to play it backwards. If he takes a good touch and holds off Jones, he can pass it to Aly, who was literally in the game at centre-back to be a ball-playing centre-back.
Right.
Or fantastic. It's, it may not have been a simple pass, but it's better than being short off the ball and then at least to a goal.
Agreed.
That's my take.
Handshake.
And it took. It also took a good finish too.
It did.
So, and so Gadi Kinda figures in in a previous game, pretty in a pretty major way. And let's talk about that before we go to break. I know it's really in the rearview mirror now. It's a busy week for Sporting, right? 3 games in 8 days, and this was on over the weekend. But a 2-1 win over Austin, a game in which I wasn't feeling terribly good about for 80 minutes or so. And then when it was over, I felt good about it for a couple of reasons. Not only did Sporting get a couple goals and get the 3 points, but also the later, as we found out, the letter that Matt Beasler penned for playing for Austin, and the letter he penned to the fans of the Cauldron. Let's start with the game and the goal first. Aly, why don't you take this? It took losing an Austin player for Sporting's offense to find itself, but when they went 11 on 10, they took full advantage of it. Yeah, and
I guess you can make the argument that, it's always helpful to a team when the opposing team goes down a player due to a red card. You've got a one-man advantage. But Sporting Kansas City, they were creating chances all night long, and they had been knocking on the door even before that happened. That definitely did not hurt. But they were, their expected goals was what, Shaun? Wasn't it like 3.7? The disparity between the chances, the number of quality chances that Sporting created versus what Austin created. They just based on that alone, they had to win that game, and they had so many opportunities. So that was a huge win for them too. To come from behind at home at the start of a 3-game stretch over 8 days, that was a huge, huge win for them. It was already kind of an emotional and exciting game too, just with all the Matt Beasler, storylines, and Josh Wolf and Davy Arno and, Graham Zusi breaking the record held by Matt Beasler. There are just so many great storylines in that game, but, huge that Sporting could get 2 goals, one from Elie, not a very likely, a guy who, by the way, does not consider himself, of course, a goal scorer as a defensive mid and doesn't like to take on that role. He's like, if I scored, I did something wrong. That means it's someone else, that I took the opportunity away from someone else, which is just kind of a, peek behind the curtain at who Elie Sanchez is. But, he, of course, scored the equalizer, and then Gadi Kinda was just a beaut in the 90th minute. So that was huge for Sporting Kansas City. But given all the chances that they created, it would have been a shame if they lost that game.
This is a fun fact, Kirsty, or fun story, Kirsty, gave for Katie on the broadcast during the game. This was said during the Houston game, but he was saying that, for Ilie's goal, the whole game, I think Sporting finished with 14 corners, and most of them, Ilie was running to the front post. The ball was either going right over his head or just wasn't getting past that front post area. So that specific corner, Alan Pleaser said, hey, I'll make the first run. He'll kind of dummy it, so to speak, and then Aly will be wide open for a header, and lo and behold, that's what happens. He's open for a header. That was an emotional game, like you said, for everyone kind of involved. And you guys might have to help me out here with names. I'll try and remember them. But this is just Fun Fact Thursday with Shaun, I feel like, right now. All 5 of Sporting KC's highest appearance players were in Children's Mercy Park that night. You had, obviously, Matt Beasley, Graham Zusi, Josh Wolf, Davey Arno, and Kerry Savagnan were all the top 5, not in that particular order. But they were all 5 in the stadium that night. So I thought that was pretty cool as well, just having so much history in one place.
That is cool. I didn't think about that. Very cool. And I don't know if that was part of the broadcast either that night.
I don't think it was. I came across it on Twitter, actually. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know Nate was telling me that, like, there were just so many great, like, little nuggets like that it was almost... which is a good problem to have. You want to have a broadcast where you have just such great information to share, but I guess that one didn't make it. Hey, Shaun, I like this new segment. Keep it up.
I have more. Should I keep going?
Not until we take a break. So we can pause so you can catch up with Liverpool, and we'll be back right after this. Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners. Unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Stars award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. We are back with Aly Trost from Sports Radio 810 and Shaun Goodwin, who covers Sporting Kansas City and KC NWSL for the Kansas City Star. Before we put Sporting away, let's just remind people, Sunday is the next game. Vancouver comes to Children's Mercy Park. That will be the third game in 8 days. So, hey, Aly, tell me how tell me about the newcomer for the Fighting Wosos, Jessica Silver. What are we getting here?
Oh my gosh, she's going to be really fun to watch. I watched just a little bit of her film, and I got a chance to catch up with Huw this week and just talk a little bit about her. He used the word flamboyant to describe her style of play, but she's just so crafty on the ball and just so creative. She's going to definitely add a big spark in the attack. And after they released 2 forward players, Brittany Ratcliffe and Rysastrom Okamoto, you kind of figured that they'd be looking to make an addition there. And so this is just a huge player, acquisition for them. She had playing in the U.S. kind of as a dream of hers. And so, for her, it's something that she's been striving to do, which that motivation I think will be solid as well. But, she'll be great. I'm excited to see how she fits in. They've got, of course, Amy Rodriguez and a number of other talented players up there, and players as well that, whether it's a Victoria Pickett that they'll slot up, in the attack from time to time. But I just think that the Portuguese flair that Silva will bring is just going to be really fun to watch. So I'm really excited to see, what concepts they build around her and just how she fits in to the roster and to the mix. Because, she's definitely going to bring a style that is going to really stand out in NWSL.
It was funny before we move on. I was talking to Huw. It was the same day as the signing was announced. Now, a former coach, I guess, but I did coach Kansas City Legends youth soccer for a while. Anyone in Kansas City who's familiar with the youth soccer landscape will know that Legends, it's all about skill. It's all about flair. So I was talking to Huw, and he's like, oh, yeah, Jessica should be playing for your team with all that skill and flamboyancy she has. So if that's any indication to anyone who knows the Kansas City youth soccer landscape and what Legends teams are like, that's hopefully what we'll be getting here in Kansas City, but on the professional level. Well,
and just one more thing to add too, that I feel like where Kansas City's strengths are, they are really good in quickly transitioning, out of the back, and having a player like that who is so talented on the ball just really helps, I think, not just building out of the back and sparking the attack, but creating, whether, individually or for somebody else, creating some really solid chances. So I just cannot wait to see her get acclimated. And they had Kiki Pickett, their number 4 overall pick that they traded up to select in the 2021 draft out of Stanford. She just arrived this week and is training. She's part of the 5'1" club. Hello, shout out. But she'll play wing back for them. And she's just tenacious. She's fiery. Height doesn't, her height is not an indication of the kind of player she is. I know short players, speaking from experience here, don't always get the respect, but she's going to really be a big part, I think, of the game plan and create some good player competition for KC NWSL as well.
Aly, you're only 5'1". I'm questioning my own height now.
5'1.5". Do with that what you will.
I thought I was like 5'7" or 5'8", but I'm questioning myself now. Am I 5'4"? I don't know. I feel like we're
say I'm 5'2". You can lie, Shaun. No one needs to know.
I'm 6'1", guys.
Well, we know at one time you were 4'5" going up against 6-footers. I remember that earlier conversation. So Jessica Silver will not be with the team, I guess, for a couple of weeks. Is that what we're thinking now?
Yeah, late May, early June, we're thinking. Obviously, once she gets here, Shots can integrate a little bit. But right. I think a big concern, I guess, is also the fact that she's barely played in the last 2 years. She's played for the Portuguese national team, I think about 64 times now. She's played for them 3 times in 2021 alone. But since she was originally at Levante out in Spain, does a great job there. And then she went to Lyon, and a mix between a serious foot injury or ankle injury, COVID, and then just struggling to get into the team. She's played 18 minutes of action over 2 years for Lyon. She's only 26. She still kind of can be seen as maybe a up-and-coming European star heading into the prime. But yeah, when you've got a player that's played that little in 2 years, yeah, you're going to have to kind of get them up to speed quickly, and you can't just throw them into a 90-minute game. Like, have fun, don't die. You have to ease them in.
Yeah, but luckily, the team does have quite a bit of depth in the attack, and not just with the players listed as forward players, but Victoria Pickett is a player that they've put up there as well. So they've got players who can play in those roles, and then that way they can just slowly introduce her. They don't need her to come in right away and be, playing full games for them.
It was Saturday at Louisville against Louisville Racing. I love that nickname. Perfect for that community. And I wanted to end just on this thought. And this is something maybe we'll talk about in greater detail on a slower week. But have you guys been reading about the Columbus Crew name issue? Cool. I just want to get some quick thoughts on what's going on there, and why Columbus Crew fans would be upset with the idea of changing, basically eliminating the Crew, using that as a sort of a secondary nickname and just calling it Columbus SC. Aly, what do you think?
Well, I think it is a little bit confusing when you rebrand to Columbus SC, yet all of your social media say the Crew and Columbus Crew. I just think it creates this, identity crisis almost. I mean, fans, I think for a long time, if not for eternity or until the next rebrand, are going to continue calling them the Columbus Crew. Like, I will probably call them the Columbus Crew unless I actually need to address them as Columbus SC for something. I struggle with all of these rebrands because it takes some of the personality out of the game, and it's just, I don't like it. So that's really all I have to say. I do not like it. And I think if you're going to do it, don't make it confusing. Like, you're either Columbus SC or you're Columbus Crew. I don't like secondary nicknames. People, you don't need to go out of your way, in my opinion, to establish a secondary nickname. People are just going to come up with that on their own. So most people are going to use that secondary. I don't know. I don't like it. So I have nothing else to add there. Shaun?
Okay. I agree with what you're saying about the identity crisis. If you're going to do it, either be a Columbus Crew or be Columbus SC. Don't try and float in this middle ground, because, that's just a pain. But I am in a very small minority in that maybe it's just the European in me, and just kind of growing up with just teams like Liverpool and Everton and Man United, and, Arsenal, just teams like that. I get how fans can be frustrated, and, the whole Columbus Crew, and whether it was, the Kansas City Wizards, or I'm trying to think who else has lost names in the recent past.
Well, Montreal Impact is another one that...
Club de Foot. But yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, just, with that instance of teams kind of going away from the traditional, fun games, kind of get Americanized way, like any other American sports, towards the more traditional soccer, kind of like Columbus SC. And Sporting Kansas City is a little funky because Sporting is kind of like Portugal, like Sporting Lisbon, but it's still, it's traditional. I like it in the fact that at the end of the day, I don't know if I've talked about this on here, but it's this whole step of MLS and just the American game trying to legitimize itself on the international level. And many Americans, like to think like, our game is unique, our league is unique. And I'm like, that's cool and all, but I literally come from another country. And I know I have friends that they look at MLS and like, Houston Dynamo, that sounds stupid. Or, whether it's the Kansas City Wizards or whoever else, Montreal Impact. And it takes away a level of legitimacy almost that people think. It almost sounds like a rec team. So this whole move towards bringing these teams that, like St. Louis City FC, that's very basic. They're coming in soon. Making this move is kind of making people see MLS as more serious, I guess. And as we move further forward and wanting to create MLS and have the American game compete at the level of what Europe is doing, I think you have to make that step, I think, in order to eventually push the game in that direction.
Well, that was a much more thoughtful answer than what I have. And I totally see that point. I think it is important to legitimize the American game and Major League Soccer and put it on, just make it more respectable for perception's sake on the international level. So I get it. I guess, that's the American in me. I like the uniqueness of Columbus Crew or Montreal Impact, or, I appreciate that. But at the same time, I think the most important thing is the growth of Major League Soccer. And if this helps grow the game, then I can be on board with it. I do like the Columbus SC logo, though. I think that it looks pretty sleek. That didn't bother me.
I don't mind the logo.
You both make really good points. I think it's a topic worth discussing a little, maybe further down the road. Branding is essential, and Aly, you're associated with a team that's in the middle of that with a team and whatnot. I'd love to spend some more time talking about it. And the other thing about Columbus that is significant to me, it's an original MLS franchise. Mm-hmm. It was brought into the league by Lamar Hunt and Clark. They were the original owners of. They owned the Kansas City and Columbus teams when MLS started. So there's a kind of a kinship with that team and that franchise.
I believe they branded themselves as the first MLS club. It is a historic team. And that's another facet of why I can see people being angry at moving away from the Columbus Crew. But I mean, it's been 25 years now. I mean, you can try and stay like that forever, but I feel like, again, just going back to the whole building a game internationally, you can't be left behind almost.
And my last point too, and this is something that's unique to soccer compared to other sports in the US, like American football is American football. Like they're not competing on an international scale with like trying to legitimize themselves. I love when the new Seattle NHL team released their brand as like the Seattle Kraken. I'm like, that's so cool. Like I want some gear, despite the fact that I already have an NHL team and I live in the Midwest. So I think like in America, that is so much more like people love aligning with those brands. That's why when teams move cities, like they don't lose their mascot because it's so much part of the identity of the team. I mean, the Lakers are in LA. There's no lakes, it's just like, it's stuff like that. The Utah Jazz, but it's just like in soccer, it's not like that.
Yeah.
We'll absolutely talk about this. I always end our conversations wanting to spend more time talking to you, but given the limits of our podcast, we're going to end it right here. And Aly Trost, Shaun Goodwin, thank you so much for the conversation, and we'll do it again soon.
Always.
Sounds good.
That'll do it for today and this week on SportsBeat KC. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Bonnie Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. Big thanks to Aly Trost and Shaun Goodwin for stopping by and talking soccer. Links to Shaun's soccer stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, let me tell you about this deal. You can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. Sports Pass is the online version of the Star Sports section. You get all the stories that appear in the print editions of the Star, plus other stories that appear only on the website. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional national news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. Love that e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And if you're having trouble hunting down any of those offers, you send me an email, bkirkhoff@kcstar.com, and I will get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Monday with another episode.